What connects a casual confession, a strange midnight stop, a last pleading breath, a question shouted into darkness, and a smile that makes no sense? Follow the clues. By the last case, the pattern will chill you. On April 18th, 2023, a quiet morning in Tulsa, Oklahoma was shattered by two brutal, random murders and the killer's unnerving calm. Police body camera footage later revealed an eerie scene. At a Quick Trip gas station, officers encountered 61-year-old Carlton Guilford just moments after the shootings, and he immediately confessed at the crime scene. Guilford approached the arriving officers and stated matter-of-factly, "I did it. I did the shooting," as captured on the body cam. When one officer asked why he had opened fire on strangers, Guilford quietly replied, "It's a long story."
What happened?
It's a long story.
The unsettling composure of his on-camera confession belied the horrific violence of his actions just minutes prior. What unfolded that day, and the investigation and legal saga that followed, reads like a chilling documentary of a senseless crime. Despite the brutality of the murders he had just committed, Guilford remained oddly calm and compliant during his arrest.
I did that. There you go, you got it.
The shooting and everything?
Yeah.
Turn around.
He did not attempt to flee or fight. Instead, he surrendered without incident. In fact, as officers handcuffed him, they noticed that Guilford had a gunshot wound on his head, an injury he had apparently inflicted on himself during the episode. He was bleeding but still alert and standing. Officers called for medical assistance, and Guilford was transported to a hospital under police custody to treat the self-inflicted gunshot wound. Authorities later noted that this wound was not life-threatening. The immediate danger was over. A suspect was in custody, and no officers or bystanders were harmed during the arrest. What remained were two innocent men dead and a question echoing over the crime scenes. Why did this happen?
In here?
Pocket, no, in there. In my pants.
In the aftermath, detectives and the community struggled to understand what drove this sudden double murder. The two victims, Hathcock and McDaniel, had no prior connection to Guilford. They were chosen seemingly at random. Early on, police indicated there was no obvious personal motive. Guilford did not know the men he killed, and he said nothing to either victim before attacking. This chilling randomness made the crimes all the more frightening. Tulsa police also confirmed that aside from perhaps exchanging a few words with officers during his arrest, Guilford offered no clear reason for the shootings at the time. His cryptic remark that "it's a long story" left investigators and the public grasping for answers. In August 2022, a police officer's body cam recorded what seemed at first like a routine traffic stop in the quiet college town of Moscow, Idaho. The driver pulled over for speeding was a lanky PhD criminology student named Bryan Kohberger. The body cam shows the interaction. Kohberger is polite, if a bit anxious. The officer notes he's driving the same white Hyundai Elantra that would later be sought in connection with the murders. He's let off with a warning for the seatbelt. It was a minor infraction. And the encounter ends with a cordial goodbye. Kohberger drives off into the night, the officer none the wiser that he had just chatted with a future mass murderer. Kohberger appears normal, yet there's an undercurrent of nervous energy. We know now that he had already begun stalking the area around the victim's home, likely planning his attack. In fact, prosecutors later revealed they believed Kohberger was casing the neighborhood, and this stop placed him blocks from the eventual crime scene just weeks before the murders.
Like a vehicle registration slip or something like that. Okay. Yeah, this is your insurance. That's good. Thing is, I'm on a overtime shift right now. One of the conditions we have to...
The body cam was cited as evidence of him lurking in the vicinity. Perhaps the most unsettling part is a single image. Kohberger's eyes in the infrared glow of the police camera. He looks alert, maybe a little too much so, as if hiding tension behind those dark eyes. At one point, he flashes a quick smile at the officer, a smile that, on replay, feels entirely forced. After Kohberger's arrest for the quadruple homicide, that body cam video became infamous. News outlets called it chilling new video of Kohberger before the killings. In retrospect, every mundane word he said, "I'm just driving around, officer," feels laden with dark subtext. This was a killer before the killings, caught on tape in a moment of normal life that now seems anything but normal. Kohberger would go on to plead guilty to the murders, receiving multiple life sentences. For the officer who stopped him and didn't know, it's a haunting memory. For the rest of us, it's a glimpse of evil in plain sight.
If you'd like one, if you'd like hearing, you need to request it before September 8th at 8:30. Otherwise, they'll automatically be...
A man who would soon slaughter 4 young people, politely conversing with police, the predator still in sheep's clothing at that moment. The banality of the encounter is exactly what makes it so disturbing. Sometimes bodycam footage is disturbing not because of malice, but because of the horror of an unfolding tragedy. Such is the case with Mario Gonzalez, a 26-year-old Latino man whose last conscious moments were recorded on Alameda, California police bodycams on April 19, 2021. Gonzalez was suspected of minor disorderly conduct in a park. Nothing violent, possibly related to intoxication. The videos show officers approach Mario, who appears disoriented but cooperative at first. They ask him some questions. He mumbles answers. After a few minutes, things escalate when officers decide to detain him. What follows is agonizing to watch. Multiple officers wrestle Mario to the ground, pinning him face down in the dirt when he doesn't immediately comply.
I got it. So I didn't try to do that, okay? Okay, hey Mario, just put your hand behind your back, please. I got it, sorry.
He's not fighting them with any strikes or weapons. He's mainly struggling under their weight, confused and increasingly desperate for air. Moments later, Mario Gonzalez stops breathing. The camera shows an officer noticing Mario has gone unresponsive. They roll him over, his face is slack, eyes closed. Panic sets in among the police now. "Start CPR," one shouts. For 7 minutes they had knelt on him. Now they frantically pump his chest. But it's too late. Mario was pronounced dead soon after. The release of this bodycam footage sparked outrage and sorrow. Comparisons were immediately made to George Floyd's case, which had happened only a year prior. Another instance of someone crying, "I can't breathe," under officers' weight. In Mario's video, he doesn't use those exact words, but his gasping plea of, "I didn't do nothing," became the emblem of the tragedy. It underscores the helplessness he felt. Indeed, an officer's own bodycam recorded heavy breathing from the cops themselves as they strained to keep Mario pinned, indicating how much force was being used. An investigation would call the death a medical emergency following a struggle, but Mario's family flatly stated he was killed by excessive force. The bodycam doesn't lie. It shows a man who posed little threat slowly suffocated, his protests growing weaker until silence. There is no satisfying resolution here, only reforms put in place and a lawsuit from the family. Watching it, you're left with a sickening feeling. In Mario's faint voice, "I didn't do nothing," we hear fear, confusion, and the injustice of a death that didn't have to happen. This footage is a stark reminder of how quickly an encounter can turn fatal, and how the last words of a dying man captured on camera can haunt all who hear them. One of the most perplexing and disturbing pieces of bodycam footage comes from Honolulu, Hawaii, where a routine burglary call turned into a fatal police shooting under exceedingly bizarre circumstances. In April 2021, officers were called to a home in the Nuuanu neighborhood, where residents reported a strange man, Lindani Myeni, a 29-year-old South African ex-rugby player, behaving erratically, entering a house that wasn't his, then leaving. The situation was murky. Myeni was reportedly disoriented, perhaps mistaking the home for a nearby temple. When Honolulu police arrive, it's dark. Bodycams show officers with flashlights scanning the property. Suddenly, they encounter Myeni in the driveway. What transpires happens fast and is chaotic on video. An officer shouts, "Get on the ground," twice, but they did not clearly identify themselves as police. Myeni, possibly thinking he's being attacked by strangers, and perhaps in a mental health crisis, does not immediately comply. Instead, he yells back, "Who are you?" Not once, but twice, as the flashlights blind him. Then, violence. Myeni, a former rugby forward, charges at the officers. The camera image jerks wildly as a brawl ensues. Myeni strikes one cop hard, knocking him to the ground. Another officer deploys a taser. The crackle is heard on video, but it seems to have no effect. Myeni is raging, perhaps not fully understanding what's happening, fueled by adrenaline and fear. In the chaotic footage, you hear someone, possibly one of the homeowners or a cop, scream, "Shoot him!" A gunshot rings out. Myeni grunts but still fights. Another officer then shouts, "Police!" notably after the first shot. Then 3 more gunshots crack through the night. The struggle suddenly stops. Myeni is on the ground, mortally wounded. Amidst the heavy breathing and cursing, one officer angrily shouts at the downed man, an ugly punctuation to a deadly encounter. They cuff Myeni and begin CPR, but it's futile. He bleeds out there in the driveway. The bodycam footage is graphic and incredibly unsettling, not only for the violence, but for the profound confusion surrounding it. Here was a man who likely did not comprehend who these people shining lights at him were. He even asked, "Who are you?" as he was being shot. The officers, for their part, walked into a scenario where a large, agitated man assaulted them, and they reacted with lethal force. Public reaction was intensely divided. Myeni's widow pointed out that had the police identified themselves clearly, maybe Lindani wouldn't have reacted with fear and aggression. Honolulu's prosecutor later ruled the shooting justified, emphasizing that Myeni attacked first and ferociously. One officer had a concussion, another had facial fractures. They noted Myeni's bizarre behavior, possibly linked to undiagnosed CTE, a brain trauma disease found in his autopsy. But many criticized the officers for their tactics, failing to de-escalate, not announcing police sooner, and the one officer's furious curse at the end, which underscored the tragedy of the moment. The bodycam video is now often shown in police training as a case study in escalation and identification. What makes it so haunting is Myeni's voice captured on it, a tone of confusion turning to rage, and the sight of an encounter that could be a misunderstanding, yet ends in bloodshed. Unlike a clear confession or a clear-cut crime, this footage leaves us with painful questions. It is a glimpse into a deadly misunderstanding. A man asking, "Who are you?" to figures he can't see. An officer responding with gunfire. The viewer is left with the indelible impression that we are witnessing a moment where everything went wrong. Lindani Myeni's last moments, immortalized on that shaky camera, ensure that this incident will not be forgotten, serving as a grim lesson in the volatility of police interactions and the thin line between life and death in the dark. In the video, Lori giggles and even flirts a little, tossing her hair.
I told you, it's a crazy question. Well,
At one point, she makes a flippant remark about Charles. "I don't like him, and that's just how it is," she says with a shrug and a smirk.
he's always mad at me, right here, and he doesn't want a divorce, but I don't like him and don't want to deal with him, so that's just how it is. So we married for 14 years, we've dealt with it for 14 years.
The detective asks her to recount what happened. Lori describes the argument, how her brother intervened, and how Charles ended up on the floor with bullet wounds. She claims it was all in defense of herself and her kids. Throughout, she chuckles as if discussing last night's sitcom. She even banters with the detective about trivial details. There is a casualness, a breeziness, that is utterly out of place for a woman whose partner was just killed violently in her home. In stark contrast, in a separate room, bodycam video captured Lori's 16-year-old daughter Tylee, who witnessed the shooting, weeping and trembling during her interview. Tylee is distraught, describing how crazy Charles looked and how terrifying it all was.
Honestly, it feels like 2 seconds and 40 minutes at the same time.
Yeah.
I just kind of heard yelling over everything. I don't know, I kind of just do that whenever things are like really loud. I kind of just like tune what people are saying.
Meanwhile, Lori, in her interview, is all smiles. This footage became public in 2021, and people were outraged at Lori's effect. The Independent reported Lori laughed and joked about her estranged husband just hours after he'd been shot dead. Indeed, at one point on camera, Lori even jokes that when Tylee came out with a baseball bat to defend her, it was like a little drama scene, punctuated by a laugh. The detective gently reminds her that her husband is deceased, essentially pointing out the gravity. And Lori's response is to nonchalantly mention she was already thinking of divorcing him. "I don't like him," she reiterates with a chuckle. This chilling nonchalance suggested to detectives, and later to the world, that Lori's concern wasn't on her husband's death at all. In fact, within months, Lori would be implicated in an even darker plot: the disappearance and murder of her own 2 children, Tylee and 7-year-old JJ, in a twisted doomsday belief scheme with her new fifth husband, Chad Daybell. When that truth came out, Lori's smiling face in the 2019 Bodycam took on even more sinister color. Here was a woman, possibly already conspiring in multiple murders, putting on a show of carefree innocence for the police camera. It's a masterclass in psychopathic behavior, the total lack of normal emotional response. For those who watch the footage, the most bone-chilling part may be when Lori Vallow, with a grin, casually tells the detective that Charles had been becoming someone she didn't recognize, and adds with a light laugh, "It's just so drama." The contrast between the content of her words and the tone of her voice is jarring. A man was killed, her man, and she's acting like it's a mild inconvenience. Bodycam videos are meant to capture reality, and here they captured the reality of Lori Vallow's callous heart. No confession needed. Her demeanor was confession enough of her twisted state of mind.